So, what does it really mean to own something? I mean, is it just about having your name on a piece of paper, on some official document? Or is it something deeper? Today, we're diving into the pretty wild world of property law to ask one really important question. Who is the real owner?
Okay, let's just jump right into it with a scenario that's going to get to the heart of this whole legal puzzle. Picture this. You find the perfect house, your dream home. You do everything right. You pay the seller every single dollar you agreed on. But, and this is a big but, before the official title gets transferred to your name, the seller just disappears, vanishes. And if that wasn't bad enough, their bank suddenly shows up, saying the seller owes them a ton of money and they're here to seize your house to pay that debt. I mean, it sounds like a complete nightmare, right? But this exact situation, it reveals this huge, fascinating challenge in the law.
And this nightmare scenario, well, it creates what we can call the ownership puzzle. It's this fundamental clash between what the official records say and what is actually fair and just. To even begin to solve this puzzle, you have to understand that property law actually sees two different kinds of ownership. On one hand, you've got legal ownership. It's simple, it's straightforward, whose name is on the official title deed. That's it. But then there's equitable ownership. And this one asks a totally different question. Who really has the right to enjoy and benefit from the property? It's this powerful idea that's based on fairness, not just paperwork. So, let's really focus on that second idea for a minute, the one that's all about fairness, because honestly, it's the key to protecting the buyer in our story.
And this brings us to the hero of our story, the concept of equitable ownership. It's the principle that says someone can be the true owner in substance, in reality, even if their name isn't on the title just yet. They hold what's called the beneficial interest, which is just a fancy way of saying they have the right to all the good stuff, all the benefits that come with that property. Now this hero, equitable ownership, it's got a kind of superpower. It's a specific rule from Malaysian law, and it's called the bare trustee doctrine. Here's how this superpower works. The second a seller gets paid in full, that exact moment, their whole status changes. Poof! They are no longer the real owner. They become what's called a bare trustee. All they're doing is holding on to the empty, bare legal title for the buyer. In the eyes of justice, that seller has no beneficial interest left to give away, or, more importantly, for a creditor to take. And look, this isn't just some dusty legal theory. Courts have used this exact principle in real-life fights. So let's check out a classic Malaysian case to see how this actually plays out. So here's how it all went down, step by step. The situation was almost exactly like our nightmare. A buyer pays the full price for some land. Then an old lender of the seller shows up and tries to seize that exact piece of land to cover the seller's own personal debt. And that, of course, kicks off a huge legal showdown. Who has the stronger claim here? Is it the buyer who paid for the land or the seller's creditor?
The court's answer was crystal clear. The buyer wins. The judges ruled that because the seller had been paid in full, they were just a bare trustee. They were holding an empty legal shell. There was literally no beneficial interest left in that property for the creditor to grab onto. The real owner, in the eyes of justice, was the person who paid the money, the buyer.
But hold on, the story doesn't end there. Because every hero needs a powerful opposing force, right? And in property law, that force is a system built not on fairness, but on something else entirely. Absolute, unshakable certainty. This system is called the Torrens system. And you can think of the official land register like a giant, impenetrable fortress of certainty. The whole idea is simple. The register, held by the government, is the final, ultimate, conclusive proof of who owns what. What you see on that piece of paper is supposed to be the absolute truth. End of story. Yeah, the core principles of the Torrens system put that official record above everything else. Its one and only goal is certainty. The rule is simple. The register is everything. And to make this work, the system deliberately leaves out some of those fuzzy, flexible ideas about fairness, like something called constructive notice. That basically means you have a duty to investigate other possible claims that aren't on the register. The Torrens system says, nope, you shouldn't have to do that.
So you can probably see the collision course we're on, right? What happens when this principle of fairness, the whole bare trustee idea, smashes head-on with this rule of absolute certainty from the register?
Well, this exact conflict was the focus of a huge landmark 2024 case in Malaysia's federal court, the Affirm case. And the key question was this: does a buyer or a bank have to go digging around for potential claims that aren't on the official title? You know, the side of fairness and equity argues, yes, you should be aware of other people's interests. But the Torrens system argues, absolutely not. The register is all that matters. And the court's decision? Wow. It was a powerful, definitive statement. The court completely rejected any attempt to bring that English idea of constructive notice into Malaysian law. They sided firmly and clearly with the certainty of the Torrens system.
So this ruling, it really shifts the balance of power. The big takeaway here is that in Malaysia, the official registration is king. The most important, the paramount principle, is what's written on the official record. It seriously reinforces the power of that land register.
But wait a second, if the register is that powerful, how can a person with a totally fair claim, like our buyer who paid every single cent, ever be protected? Does fairness just get thrown out the window completely?
Well, not quite. The system has a final referee, a final arbiter. The key, the ultimate tool to turn a proven equitable right into an official registered legal title is the power of a court order.
So this is how the modern system tries to find its balance. Yes, the register is conclusive proof, but the courts have the power to look behind that register, to investigate the facts, and to enforce those equitable rights we talked about. A court order forces the land registry to update the title, and this is crucial. The registry can't argue with it or question it. So you could say that while the register might be the kingdom, a court order is the key that can unlock the gate and change who rules.
And all this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. The law is always trying to balance this need for cold, hard certainty with a very human need for justice and fairness. This tension, this constant tug of war between the official register and the equitable owner, it just shows how delicate that balancing act really is. And it reminds us to always keep asking, in a world that puts so much value on official records, how do we make sure that fairness is never just an afterthought?